It was very cold in Boston. Inside the van, the grandkids, Ben and Meg, could hardly hide their impatience. The van's heater struggled in vain against the cold. Ben, with his dark eyes and tension-lined face, tapped his fingers on the steering wheel, the frantic rhythm betraying his anxiety. Meg, wearing a guilt-ridden expression, stared fixedly at the passing landscape, the city lights turning into blurry yellow smudges in the foggy night. In the back seat, Lucy felt the weight of age in every bone, in every wheezing breath escaping her chapped lips. The thin coat she wore, a gift from her late daughter, was an insignificant barrier against the cutting wind, making her bones ache and her tears freeze on her cheeks. With every bump of the van, Lucy's sense of dread intensified, an anguishing tightness in her chest. "Grandma, we need to go downtown to handle some business. We'll take you along for a spin. What do you think?" Ben said, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Lucy felt a pang in her heart. Something was wrong. She could feel it in the way Ben avoided her gaze, in the tension emanating from Meg. But the prospect of an outing, of seeing the city bustle, cheered her a bit. "That would be nice, my dear," she replied, trying to ignore the ominous feeling creeping over her. As Lucy got distracted by the scenery, Ben and Meg exchanged tense glances. Meg bit her lower lip, nervous. "Are you sure this is the best way to do this, Ben?" she whispered, her voice laden with apprehension. "We don't have a choice, Meg," Ben replied, his voice low and firm. "You know we can't take care of her anymore. It's the best solution for everyone." Meg nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. She knew her brother was right, but guilt gnawed at her insides. The image of Lucy, always so loving and caring, now hunched and fragile in the back seat, tortured her. The van turned into a dark, deserted alley, the night shadows closing in on them like a sinister curtain. Ben stopped the car and turned off the engine. The ensuing silence was deafening, broken only by Lucy's wheezing breaths. "We're here, Grandma," Ben said, opening the van door. Lucy looked outside, confused. "Where are we, my dear?" she asked, her voice trembling. Ben got out of the van and opened the trunk, revealing Lucy's suitcase. "We're going to leave you here, Grandma. You can catch a bus to a shelter. We left money in your purse for the fare." Lucy felt the ground disappear beneath her feet. "Shelter? What shelter?" she asked, her voice choked with panic. Ben avoided her gaze, the words tumbling out in a rushed stream. "A shelter for the elderly, Grandma. You'll be fine there. They'll take care of you." Lucy grabbed her grandson's arm, desperation taking hold of her. "No, please don't leave me here. I promise I won't be a burden to you anymore. I can help with household chores, cook, tend the garden." Meg began to cry, tears streaming down her pale face. "Ben, please," she pleaded, but her voice was drowned out by her brother. "Enough, Meg, enough already. We've made the decision. It's the best for everyone." He pulled Lucy's arm, releasing her forcefully. "Goodbye, Grandma. Take care." And so, without looking back, Ben and Meg got into the van and drove away, leaving Lucy alone in the dark, cold alley. The snow kept falling, covering her with a relentless white blanket. The wind howled, carrying away her dreams and hopes, leaving only an immense emptiness in her heart. The pain of betrayal was unbearable, suffocating. Lucy fell to her knees in the snow, her cries of despair lost in the cold, unforgiving night. Lost and disoriented, Lucy wandered the deserted streets of Boston, the snow whipping her face like icy needles. The battered suitcase, now an unbearable burden, thudded against her leg with each uncertain step. a painful echo of her shattered life. The wind howled in her ears, a ghostly chorus reminding her of her solitude. The city, once familiar and welcoming, with its charming cafes and illuminated shop windows, now seemed like a hostile maze, every corner a dead end. Her feet led her to a dark alley where snow piled up in grotesque mounds, like tombstones in an abandoned cemetery. Lucy stumbled over a garbage bag, falling to her knees in the cold snow. The physical pain merged with the pain of her soul, forming a whirlwind of despair that threatened to consume her entirely. She closed her eyes, tears mingling with the melting snow on her face, forming a river of sadness and desolation. "My God, help me," she whispered, her voice hoarse and weak, almost a lost sigh in the wind. "What have I done to deserve this?" The words echoed in the empty alley, a silent scream of pain and abandonment. Suddenly, a distant sound reached her, a soft, melodious singing that seemed to come from another world. Lucy opened her eyes, curiosity overcoming despair. Feeling the cold wall, she got up, every movement a battle against the pain and cold that gnawed at her from within. "A church," she murmured, hope rekindling in her heart. The cross atop the tower seemed like a beacon of light in the darkness, a divine sign in her darkest hour. Lucy hesitated for a moment, fear of the unknown battling with the desire to find shelter. However, the memory of her grandchildren's betrayal propelled her towards the church. The door was ajar and Lucy entered hesitantly. The warmth enveloped her like a hug, the smell of incense and burning candles comforting her. At the altar, Father Michael sang a song of hope and faith, his deep, welcoming voice filling the sacred space. The music touched her deeply, the words penetrating her wounded heart like a balm. Lucy sat down on a pew, tears flowing down her face once again. Each tear was a memory, a fragment of a life that now seemed shattered. She remembered her husband Thomas, the love they shared, the children they raised together. The images of Ben and Meg as children, running around the house, filling their days with joy, now felt like needles piercing her soul. Guilt consumed her. Had she failed as a mother, as a grandmother? Had she been selfish to expect her grandchildren to take care of her in her old age? Doubts tormented her, her mind spinning in an endless cycle of self-recrimination. Father Michael, sensing her presence, interrupted the song and approached. "Can I help you, my child?" he asked, his voice gentle and compassionate. Lucy looked at him, her eyes brimming with tears, and told him her story. The betrayal of her grandchildren, the abandonment, the cruel letter. With each word, the pain renewed itself, tears flowing uncontrollably. Father Michael listened attentively, his eyes expressing sadness and compassion. "You are not alone, Lucy," he said, holding her hand. "This church is a refuge for all who suffer. Stay here tonight. Rest and warm yourself. Tomorrow we will see how we can help you." Lucy thanked him, her heart full of gratitude. For the first time in hours, she felt a spark of hope. The church, with its warmth and hospitality, became her temporary home, a refuge in the storm that had engulfed her life. As Father Michael returned to the altar, Lucy closed her eyes and prayed, asking for strength to face the uncertain future. The church, once an unknown place, was now her sanctuary, a place where she could lick her wounds and find solace in her faith. Lucy, buoyed by the faith that had guided her throughout her life, found the strength to rise from the cold church pew. The previous night, spent in fitful sleep, plagued by nightmares, had left her exhausted, but the light of the new day, brought with it a glimmer of hope. Father Michael, a man with kind eyes and a welcoming smile, found her kneeling in front of the altar, her hands clasped in fervent prayer. He approached silently, respecting the intimate connection that this lady had with her faith. Lucy, sensing his presence, lifted her tear-filled eyes. "Father, I feel so lost, so alone," she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. Father Michael enveloped her in a comforting embrace, his gentle words like a balm for her wounded soul. "Lucy, you are not alone. God is with you, has always been, and this church is a home for all who seek Him." Lucy found solace in the priest's words and in the embrace of the church community. The parish ladies, with their calloused hands and generous hearts, fed her with hot soup and fresh bread, clothed her in clean clothes, and wrapped her in soft blankets. The parishioners, touched by Lucy's story, took turns in her company, offering words of comfort and support. Lucy surrendered herself to the church's routine, finding in faith a refuge for her pain. She helped in the kitchen, setting tables for the community lunch, and participated in prayers and masses, seeking strength to forgive her grandchildren and move forward. One day, while helping organize the church library, Lucy came across an old book with a worn leather cover and yellowed pages. It was a Bible with annotations in the margins made by various hands over the years. Lucy began to read, and the sacred words transported her to a world of peace and hope. She identified with the stories of suffering and redemption, finding comfort in Jesus' words. With each page, she felt her heart calm down, anger and hurt giving way to compassion and forgiveness. Inspired by faith, Lucy decided to write a letter to her grandchildren. With Father Michael's help, she put her feelings on paper, expressing the pain of abandonment, but also the unconditional love she felt for them. The letter, written in trembling handwriting, was a testament to her inner strength and her capacity to forgive. Moved by the letter, Father Michael decided to share it with the community during Sunday Mass. The reading of the letter echoed through the church walls, touching the hearts of the faithful. Lucy's words, laden with emotion and sincerity, stirred compassion and solidarity. Lucy's story spread throughout the community, reaching the ears of her grandchildren. Shame and remorse gnawed at them, while Lucy grew stronger every day, supported by faith and the love of the community that had welcomed her. The seed of forgiveness had been planted, and Lucy hoped that one day it would sprout in her grandchildren's hearts. Weeks passed, and Lucy's story spread like wildfire. The media, drawn by the poignant narrative of the abandoned elderly woman who found refuge in faith, turned her into a celebrity. Interviews, invitations to television shows, and a flood of supportive letters from people touched by her story inundated the small church. Lucy, still fragile but with a renewed sparkle in her eyes, found herself in the spotlight. The kindness and resilience that emanated from her won over the public, and her story of forgiveness and overcoming became an example for many. Donations began pouring in, sent by people who were moved by Lucy's story and wanted to help her start anew. Amidst this flurry of activity, one day a car pulled up in front of the church. From it emerged Ben and Meg, accompanied by a lawyer in a suit and tie. Lucy, who was helping in the kitchen, felt a pang in her heart upon seeing them. "Grandma," exclaimed Meg, running towards Lucy and embracing her tightly. Ben, more hesitant, approached, his expression laden with guilt and remorse. Lucy, surprised and confused, returned her granddaughter's embrace, but her gaze fixed on Ben, searching for any sign of genuine remorse. "We've come to take you home, Grandma," said Meg, her voice choked with emotion. "We're so sorry for what we did. We want you to come back home." Lucy pulled away from the embrace, her tear-filled eyes fixed on her grandchildren. "Come back home?" she asked, her voice heavy with resentment. "The home you took away from me?" Ben cleared his throat, his voice hoarse. "We know we messed up, Grandma, but we want to make things right. We're worried about you being here alone with all these donations coming in. We think it would be better if we took you home and helped you manage everything. This priest, he might have ulterior motives." Lucy looked at the lawyer, who observed her with a restrained smile. "And did you come to fetch me too, my dear lawyer?" she asked, her voice dripping with irony. The lawyer stepped forward, his voice professional and impersonal. "Mrs. Lucy, we are here to ensure that your interests are protected. Your grandchildren are concerned that you may be deceived and manipulated by unscrupulous individuals." Lucy felt a lump in her throat. Her grandchildren hadn't come out of love or repentance, but rather out of greed. Anger and disappointment surged within her, but she restrained herself. "I appreciate your concern, gentlemen," she said, her voice steady. "But I am capable of taking care of myself, and as for Father Michael, he is a man of God who welcomed me when I needed it most. I won't allow you to speak ill of him." Ben and Meg stared at her, shocked and ashamed. The mask of remorse had fallen, revealing the true intention behind their return. With her head held high and her heart filled with bitterness, Lucy distanced herself from them, seeking refuge in the welcoming arms of Father Michael. The car departed, taking with it the grandchildren and the lawyer, leaving Lucy with the certainty that the fight for her dignity had only just begun. The news of Lucy's rejection of her grandchildren and her refusal to return home spread quickly, fueling even more curiosity from the public and the media. Ben and Meg, frustrated and afraid of losing the fortune their grandmother had amassed, decided to play their last card, to go to court to obtain custody of Lucy, alleging that she was being manipulated and was not capable of making decisions on her own. The courtroom was crowded, the air heavy with tension and expectation. Lucy, dressed in a simple blue dress and crochet shawl, sat in front, her posture upright and her gaze determined. Her grandchildren, Ben and Meg, accompanied by their lawyer, occupied the defense table, their faces pale and eyes downcast, avoiding eye contact with their grandmother. The judge, a middle-aged man with graying hair and a stern expression, announced the start of the hearing. Ben and Meg's lawyer began his argument, trying to portray Lucy as a senile old lady who was easily influenced, incapable of managing her own finances. He painted a distorted picture of reality, insinuating that Father Michael and the church community were taking advantage of Lucy's vulnerability to gain financial benefits. Lucy listened in silence, her hands clasped in her lap. With each word from the lawyer, anger grew within her, but she remembered Father Michael's words. Forgiveness is the key to inner peace. She took a deep breath, drawing strength from her faith to face yet another battle. When it was her turn to speak, Lucy stood up, her voice trembling but firm. "Your Honor, I am not a child. I am an 82-year-old woman who has dedicated her life to her family. I was a wife, a mother, and a grandmother, and I always did my best. My grandchildren abandoned me, left me alone and helpless, like an unwanted animal. But I didn't let myself be defeated. I found strength in my faith, in the love of the community, and in the kindness of Father Michael. Lucy paused, taking a deep breath. I am not here for money, Your Honor. I am here for justice. I want my grandchildren to acknowledge the mistake they made, to sincerely ask for forgiveness, and to understand that the love of a family is priceless. Her words echoed in the courtroom, filled with emotion and sincerity. Ben and Meg, unable to sustain their grandmother's gaze, lowered their heads, tears streaming down their faces. The lawyer, seeing the reaction of the audience and the jurors, realized that the case was lost. After a brief recess, the judge announced his decision. Lucy was perfectly capable of managing her own finances, and there was no need for a guardian. Ben and Meg, in a desperate act, begged for forgiveness from their grandmother, confessing their mistakes and pleading for a second chance. Lucy, with her heart full of love and compassion, forgave them, but the wound of betrayal was deep, and she knew that trust would take time to rebuild. She decided then that she would not return to her grandchildren's home. She had found a new home in the church, with people who loved and respected her. Months later, the church was in celebration. Lucy, radiant in a blue dress, danced a waltz with Father Michael. The gentle music and radiant smiles illuminated the hall. Ben and Meg, with tear-filled eyes, watched their grandmother, proud of her strength and resilience. The story ends with Lucy's words echoing in the minds of the audience. Forgiveness is the key to happiness. But family isn't just about blood ties. It's about being with those who truly love and value us. Thank you for joining us today and being a part of Lucy's incredible journey. If her story touched your heart, please give this video a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss another moving story. Your support helps us continue to bring you heartfelt tales of resilience, faith, and the power of family. See you in the next video.